Hey YouTube, Twig here, bringing you all my Reactor Yu-Gi-Oh deck profile for June 2020. Been wanting to make a Reactor deck profile for a good while now. It's a really awesome deck. This was a deck used by Krieger in the Yu-Gi-Oh 5Ds anime. The whole purpose of the deck, burning your opponent for different amounts depending on the type of card they use, whether it's a monster, spell, or trap, and then being able to get out your main boss monster, Flying Fortress Skyfire, after having all of the different reactor monsters we run in this deck, and also using different synchro monsters to have just more consistency for special summoning them out. It's definitely an interesting deck if you're looking for a very unique but fun machine deck to build. For Yu-Gi-Oh, this is definitely your one to go for. So let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So for the monsters, for the reactor monsters, I am running 3 Summon Reactor with this one. The first time a monster is summoned to your opponent's side of the field, each turn inflict 800 points of damage to your opponent. And during each battle phase of the turn that this effect is activated, you can negate the attack of one monster your opponent controls, and you can send one face-up Trap Reactor, Spell Reactor, and this face-up card you control to the graveyard to special summon one Flying Fortress Skyfire from your hand, deck, or graveyard. So Summon Reactor is your main go-to monster in the deck. It sets up your big play, but also just gives you the easy setup for stopping your opponent's attacks and also burning them whenever they summon a monster onto the field. So you definitely want 3 of this card. When we go over the trap cards, you'll see there's also a trap that specifically works with Summon Reactor in the deck. The biggest weakness of this card is the fact that it is a level 5 monster, but we have some other ways to easily get this card out on the field to summon. And hopefully we may even get, some revamped support for this deck, maybe later on down the road. If Asperoba can get support for Shinzo, I can see if they redo some of the 5Ds decks, Krieger honestly getting support for his Summon Reactors. And then for the Spell Reactor, I run 3 Spell Reactor RE. If you see Summon Reactor SK and then Spell Reactor RE, all 5, they basically spell out different cards as well for the different plays. With Spell Reactor, once per turn when your opponent activates a spell card, you can destroy the spell and inflict 800 points of damage to your opponent. So the 800 points will definitely stack up after so long of burn damage. As you can see, I have the one additional Flying Fortress Skyfire here just as a placeholder for the cards, but Spell Reactor, you definitely want to run 3 of it, just so you have plenty of resources to use with your Summon Reactor SK on the field to use. But basically having no other effect, it doesn't have any of the setup, that's all Summon Reactor. Spell Reactor just helps for the burn damage, and being able to destroy the spell is a definite plus for sure. And also, I was going in the order of monster, spells, and traps, how things are normally lined up, but I also run 3 Trap Reactor Wi-Fi. Now, if you notice, it goes monster, trap, and spell, which definitely bothers me, but altogether it spells Skyfire, which is the main boss monster there. But with Trap Reactor Wi-Fi, once per turn when your opponent activates a trap card, you can destroy the trap card and inflict 800 damage to your opponent. So once per turn, but still having this option is very, very useful for sure for those plays. We also have the different levels for all of the different reactor monsters, so there's that to notice as well. For when it comes to extra deck plays, doesn't really work as well for the Xyz plays, but the main play being synchros for the deck is a whole other story for sure. And then I'm also running 1 Flying Fortress Skyfire. This card cannot be normal summoned or set. This card can only be special summoned by the effect of Summon Reactor SK. Once per turn, you can send 1 card from your hand to the graveyard, destroy 1 card your opponent controls, and once during each of your opponent's turn, you can activate one of the following effects. When your opponent normal or special summons a monster, destroy it and inflict 800 damage to your opponent. Or when your opponent sets a card, destroy it and inflict 800 damage. So it's the combined power of all 3 of our go-to monsters: Trap Reactor Wi-Fi, Summon Reactor SK, and also Spell Reactor RE, combining together to create the Flying Fortress Skyfire, which is definitely awesome, looks sweet, and you can see each and every card in the actual card. But you only need 1 of it because Summon Reactor summons this card from the hand, deck, or graveyard. So even if you set it up in the graveyard with Foolish Burial, you can summon it out, or just, opening up in your hand, Summon Reactor will take care of all the rest, as long as you have all the other monsters on the field also. And then for our go-to tuner in the deck, I'm running 3 Black Salvo. When this card is normal summon, you can select one level 4 Dark Machine monster from your graveyard and special summon it in face-up defense position. Its effects are negated. So with this, you have the option to special summon out our Trap Reactor Y5 for the level 7 plays. It's your go-to since it has to be a level 4, but also works since it's also a machine-type monster, which was the main focus of the card in the anime to get out Dark Strike Fighter, which was errated, but we'll go over that with the extra deck as well. But 3 of this also helps to synchro summon into Dark Flat Top. We might not use it the exact same way for Black Salvo, but with one of our other monsters, but still a big help for sure there. And I also run 3 Solar Windjammer with summoning out our Summon Reactor SK. You definitely want those options to, easily tribute summon it out. If you control no monsters, you can special summon this card from your hand, but its original attack and defense become halved. During each of your standby phases, increase this level by 1. There can only be 1 face-up Solar Windjammer on the field. So if you special summon this card and you have Summon Reactor SK in your hand, you can easily just tribute summon this card out onto the field and then have it that easily, not taking up any other normal summons to get it out, and then relying on Solar Windjammer for that play. The same premise, just if your opponent controls a monster, and the fact that we're using machine monsters, just 2 Cyber Dragon, same premise for Solar Windjammer, just an easy special summon to tribute out for it. And if you, in the end, if you wanted to run any rank 5 Xyz with all these different ones, you can go for that option also. Just a little more difficult to get both of these since you have to have either no monsters or your opponent controls a monster. And like I said, they're mostly just there so you can tribute them for your Summon Reactor SK. And lastly, for the monsters, the 1 Gen X Ally Birdman. I like having that 1 additional tuner, plus just being able to special summon, bouncing it back to the hand to reuse later for another special summon, and give us our Birdman on the field is another added plus for sure. And that is it for the monsters. We'll now move on to the spells. I run 2 Transmodify. This one, great for the fact that all of the reactors are dark machines. So let's say you open up your Trap Reactor. You can then use your Transmodify to special summon your Summon Reactor from your deck onto the field. And the same goes if you have Spell Reactor and you use this card to get out your Trap Reactor. That much easier also. Depending on which card you have, you should always have at least some option to summon out another one onto the field. The biggest thing I found, which was strange, I guess it's because it's Skyfire, but Flying Fortress Skyfire is not a dark machine, it is a wind machine. I don't know where they got that from, but still very, very interesting. And for the additional normal summons of our Summon Reactors, I'm running 2 double summons. Just that additional normal summon can help for the tribute, but even if you just need that 1 more monster on the field, let's say you have 2 of your reactors set up on the field already, with one of them being the tribute Summon Reactor, and if you have Trap Reactor, if you just need that 1 additional normal summon, double summon can definitely come in handy here. And having those 3 monsters on the field is your special summon for your Flying Fortress Skyfire. And having all the machines in the deck, I'm also running 2 limiter removal. The power boost, especially for these monsters, is a big help for sure. Reaching immense numbers, especially when you have Flying Fortress Skyfire to go into. And for easy tribute power, I'm also running 2 Mausoleum of the Emperor. This one just is great for the overall, you don't use life points for anything else in the deck, so being able to use it for this card and, have to not tribute any other monsters for resources is a great use for sure for our main go-to level 5 monster being Summon Reactor SK. And with the majority of the reactors being dark, and you don't really need the multiples as much, I run 3 Allura Darkness. That just helps for the draw consistency to get through the deck faster for some of the plays. And for some of the one-ofs, I'm running 1 Instant Fusion. This is to go for Panzer Dragon, which is also a machine-type monster, to summon out onto the field for our synchro plays, which I'll go over at the end of the video for some of those plays. 1 Monster Reborn, more special summoning if you're 1 short of the reactor monsters, being able to summon it back onto the field as well. 1 Reasoning with all of our reactor monsters, level 4, level 5, and level 3. You'll keep your opponent guessing on which one they declare for this card to send, and then if they guess the wrong one, it's a free special summon for you. Also, 1 Foolish Burial, you can set up whatever you need in the graveyard to summon out. Even Flying Fortress Skyfire if you don't want to draw into it, and just set it up in the graveyard to use. And the 1 Terraforming for the Mausoleum of the Emperor to search out for your easy tribute summons. And that is it for the spells. We'll move on to the traps. I run 2 Fake Explosion. This card was specifically meant for Summon Reactor SK. I was debating how many I wanted to run of this card. If you want to run 3, you could just drop the next trap or running to 2. But with this one, activate only when your opponent's monster declares an attack. The monster cannot be destroyed by battle, and after damage calculation, special summon one reactor, summon reactor SK from your hand or graveyard. So even if you set it up with Foolish Burial in your graveyard, you can easily summon reactor back onto the field with this card. All the better, because then your other reactors that are on the field will not be destroyed by battle, protecting them for you to use later on after you special summon your summon reactor SK back onto the field to use for your main play of the deck, which is to send all three of the reactors to the graveyard to use with your summoning of your Flying Fortress Skyfire. And lastly, for the traps, I'm also running the 3 back to the front. You special summon one monster from your graveyard defense position. Just great ways to get resources back on the field for you to use as well. If you wanted to drop this card down to 2, you could try a 3rd Fake Explosion as the number, like I said, protecting your other monsters in the field and still giving you a special summon just like back to the front. It's just that option, when your opponent's monster declares an attack. More situational, but still happens a lot more often than you would think it does in this deck, just when you have your other monsters on the field. And that is it for the main deck. We'll now move on to the extra deck. I run the 1 Dark Flat Top. This is the synchro specifically made for the deck. You need 1 Dark Tuner and 1 or more non-tuner machine monsters. Once per turn, you can target 1 reactor monster or Flying Fortress Skyfire in your graveyard. Special summon that target, ignoring its summoning conditions. If this card is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon 1 level 5 or lower machine monster from your hand. So it's your defensive play monster. Once you make it, you just need a Dark Tuner and 1 or more non-tuner machine type monsters, which we run plenty of in the deck, but being able to then use this card for that play. Remember, when you summon out your Flying Fortress Skyfire, you have to first successfully summon this card on the field. You can't just Foolish Burial it to the graveyard and summon it. You have to properly summon it first using your summon reactor SK, and then you can use Dark Flat Top to special summon it back onto the field. But even if you don't have that set up, you still have other reactor monsters to get out with this card, so very, very useful there. I also run the 1 Dark Strike Fighter. It's a once per turn, remember that, for the burn damage, but with all the other burn damage we're doing with our reactor monsters, it's a big help for there for sure. Also, being a level 7, working very well with Black Salvo. Also, 1 Black Rose Dragon for the level 7 plays when we can make it. 1 Cyber's Quantum, same with FA Dawn Dragster. Being another machine is a big plus for sure. And for 1 more level 8 option, the 1 Borreload Savage Dragon. And then for the Link monsters, I run the 1 Cross Sheep just for the synchro plays especially. It's a big help there to get those additional effects off the Cross Sheep. The 1 Underclock Taker, the 1 Nightmare Phoenix, the 1 Nightmare Cerberus, 1 Crystron Halqifibrax. We do have the level 3 tuner options with this one, whether it's Birdman or Black Salvo. And also 1 Nightmare Unicorn, 1 Triple Burst Dragon, and the 1 Borreload Dragon to finish off the Link monsters. And for the fusions, just the 1 Panzer Dragon as the instant fusion target for our other plays. But aside from the special summon of the Transmodified to get out the reactor monsters faster, for setting up the Dark Flat Top play, if your opponent controls a monster, you control no monsters, you can special summon Solar Windjammer onto the field and then just normal summon the Black Salvo. If you have the additional reactor monster in your graveyard, which if you have the Dark Flat Top, you should have already been able to go for that play. You can get the additional summon of your reactor monster and special summon it in face-up defense position. It may have its effect negated, but it can still be another resource to use. And then you can use the Solar Windjammer and the Black Salvo to go into your Dark Flat Top, which will then be able to special summon your Flying Fortress Skyfire from the graveyard after you successfully summon it. Like I said, with the other cards, being able to just summon out the monsters if you normal summon your spell reactor, and let's say you go for the Transmodify play to summon out your trap reactor Wi-Fi, you can then go for the additional summon, whether it's set up in your graveyard, being able to summon out your monster by special summoning it back to the grave with your Monster Reborn. And then if you have your Fake Explosion, you can set this card as long as the summon reactor is set up in the graveyard, or even if the card is in your hand to summon out, you can then special summon it and have your Flying Fortress Skyfire to go in with that play. With the instant fusion, just being able to summon out the Panzer Dragon and then still be able to do the same synchro play by normal summoning the Black Salvo into these 2 cards also to go for your Dark Flat Top. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoy the video. Definitely enjoyed making this deck. It's a lot of fun. Definitely do give it a try if you're looking for a fun machine deck to use in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Format and the form of synchro and different effect monsters as well. But until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. And Kira Twig out.